Here is something a little uncomfortable. The people who are worst at a thing are very often the most sure of themselves, and the people who are genuinely excellent are the ones quietly wondering if they are any good at all. You have met both. You have probably been both. This is not them being stupid, and it is not you being modest. It is a specific, well-studied glitch in the way the human mind sees itself. And the strangest part is this. Right now, in some corner of your life, it is happening to you. You just cannot feel it. That is rather the whole point. This matters more than it sounds, because the feeling of being confident is supposed to be a signal. We treat it like proof. The loud certain person in the meeting gets believed. The hesitant expert gets talked over. We promote confidence. We date confidence. We vote for confidence. But if confidence and competence can come apart completely, then the feeling you trust most about your own abilities might be the feeling least worth trusting. So the question is not who is the fool in the room. The question is, how would you ever know if it were you? The story behind all of this begins, of all places, with a bank robbery. In 1995, a man in Pittsburgh named MacArthur Wheeler walked into two banks in broad daylight and robbed them. No mask, no disguise. He smiled at the security cameras. When the police arrested him that night, using the footage that had been on the evening news, he was genuinely baffled. He had rubbed lemon juice on his face, and because lemon juice can be used as invisible ink, he had reasoned sincerely that it would make his face invisible to the cameras too. He was not drunk. He was not insane. He had even tested it, sort of, by taking a blurry photo of himself. He was simply, confidently, completely wrong, and he had no way of knowing it. A psychologist at Cornell named David Dunning read about Wheeler in the paper, and one line snagged in his mind. If this man was too incompetent to rob a bank, was he also too incompetent to know he was incompetent? With his student Justin Kruger, Dunning decided to actually test it. Their 1999 study is one of the most cited and most misquoted papers in all of psychology. So let me tell you what it really found, because it is more interesting than the meme. They gave students tests on grammar, on logic, on humor, on judging what is funny. Then they asked each student a second question. How do you think you did compared to everyone else? Not your raw score, your rank, your percentile. The students who scored in the bottom quarter, the genuinely worst performers, on average guessed they had landed around the 62nd percentile, better than most people in the room. In reality, they were near the bottom of it. Notice what that is, and what it is not. It is not that bad people thought they were geniuses. They did not rate themselves as brilliant. They rated themselves as a little above average when they were near the floor. The error is not arrogance. The error is that they could not see how far they had to go. Now here is the half of the study nobody remembers. The same experiment found a mirror image mistake at the top. The students who actually scored the highest, the real experts in the room, did something almost the opposite. They underestimated themselves. They assumed that if a task felt easy to them, it must have felt easy to everyone. So they guessed they were closer to the middle of the pack than they were. Their problem was not too little skill. It was too much. They could not imagine how the task looked through less able eyes. So you get this strange, lopsided picture. The bottom of the room is quietly overconfident. The top of the room is quietly unsure. And almost everyone, at both ends, is drifting toward the same comfortable illusion of being roughly average. Now, in the spirit of the channel, one honest footnote, because it actually makes the idea stronger, not weaker. Some statisticians have pushed back on the famous chart. They point out that if you ask anyone to guess their rank, people at the bottom have nowhere to go but up, and people at the top have nowhere to go but down. So a little of that gap appears just from the mathematics, even in people judging perfectly. Fair. But careful follow-up work that strips out that effect still finds a real core. Poor performers genuinely do have less insight into their own performance. The meme version, the cartoon mountain of arrogance, is overstated. The quiet finding underneath that the worse you are at something, the harder it is to see it, has held up. And that quiet finding is the one that should worry you, gently. So here is the part that turns the whole thing on its head. The skill you would need to recognize that you are bad at something is, almost always, the very same skill you are missing. The knowledge that would let you spot your mistakes is the knowledge you do not yet have. Bad grammar cannot catch bad grammar. A poor sense of logic cannot audit itself, which means incompetence does not feel like incompetence from the inside. It feels like confidence. It hides itself using the exact gap it lives in. The person at the bottom of the curve cannot see the bottom of the curve, because seeing it would require the thing they are standing in the absence of. Read that back. It means the feeling of certainty is not evidence that you are right. Sometimes it is just evidence that you cannot yet see what you are missing. But follow that same logic forward, and it gives you a gift. If not knowing feels like certainty, then doubt, that quiet voice asking, "Are you sure? Are you really any good?" is not a sign that you are failing. Very often, it is the first sign that you have learned enough to glimpse the size of the thing. You only start to feel small once you have climbed high enough to see the mountain. The discomfort of knowing how much you do not know is not a problem to fix. It is a view you earned. So the goal was never confidence. Confidence is cheap. The lemon juice man had plenty. The goal is calibration, to make the dial of how sure you feel actually match the dial of how good you are. And the only way to do that is to keep checking, keep asking, keep staying a little unsure on purpose, because that flicker of doubt is the foothold for the next step up. Stay humble enough to keep learning and curious enough to keep climbing. That is not a weakness in you. That is the whole job of growing up, which conveniently is the entire reason this channel exists.